There's a man sitting in a corner office right now. 42 years old, intelligent, hardworking, disciplined in most areas of his life. He's built a career that most would envy, a reputation that opens doors. He has $400,000 sitting in a savings account earning 0.5% annually. He checks it sometimes, late at night, after everyone's asleep, feeling a quiet satisfaction. The number is there, stable, untouched, exactly where he left it last month. He believes he's being responsible, conservative, smart with his wealth accumulation strategy overall. But here's what he doesn't see while he sleeps tonight peacefully. That money is vanishing, silently, invisibly, legally, right in front of him every single day. Not because someone broke into his account or made a bad investment decision, but because he believed a lie so deeply embedded in our culture that saving money in a bank makes you financially secure and protected. Let me tell you what's really happening to that $400,000 right now. The government reports inflation at 3.4% this year. Benign, manageable, nothing to worry about. But that number is a carefully crafted illusion designed to keep you calm. The Consumer Price Index, the official measure of inflation, excludes or underweights your biggest expenses. Housing costs are calculated using owner's equivalent rent, not actual home price increases. Food and energy, the things you buy most often, are stripped out completely. Medical costs, education, insurance, all underweighted or measured in ways that minimize reported inflation. The result is a number that tells you everything's fine while your reality screams. Real inflation, the kind you feel when you pay bills, is closer to 8 to 10%. That means his $400,000 loses $32,000 to $40,000 of purchasing power every single year. Not in 5 years, not eventually, right now, this year, while he sleeps. In a decade, that money will buy what $200,000 buys today if nothing changes. He worked 20 years to accumulate that wealth, and it's being stolen daily. Not by criminals, by the system itself, with his silent, unknowing permission every day. This is the inflation lie, and it's not an accident or oversight. It's policy, strategy, a wealth transfer mechanism built into the monetary system itself. Let me show you how it works, because once you see it clearly, you'll never trust a savings account the same way again for wealth preservation. In 1971, President Nixon severed the dollar's link to gold completely forever. Before that, every dollar represented a claim on real, physical, tangible gold. The government couldn't print unlimited money because gold supply was finite and constrained. After 1971, money became purely fiat, backed only by government decree and trust. Suddenly, there was no limit to how much money could be created annually. The Federal Reserve, a private institution despite its name, controls the money supply. When the government spends more than it collects, which happens every single year, the Fed simply creates new money, digitally, instantly, out of thin air permanently. This new money dilutes the value of every dollar already in circulation everywhere. Your savings don't disappear, but their purchasing power erodes silently, invisibly, constantly every day. The wealth doesn't vanish, it transfers from savers to those who create money first. Banks, corporations, government contractors, they spend the new money before prices adjust upward. By the time that money reaches you, prices have already risen accordingly. You're always last in line, always losing purchasing power, always falling behind slowly. Here's where it gets interesting, and most smart men miss this completely. Inflation isn't just an economic phenomenon or a neutral force of nature. It's a tax, the most regressive tax in existence, one you can't avoid. It targets savers, retirees, wage earners, people who hold cash in traditional accounts. It rewards asset holders, those who understand the game being played daily. If you hold cash, you lose 8 to 10% purchasing power annually in silence. If you hold real assets, tangible value, productive enterprises, you often rise with inflation. The system is designed to punish savers and reward those who position strategically. But here's the sovereign truth. Most financial advisors won't tell you directly. You can protect yourself without gambling recklessly or trusting empty promises constantly. Let me paint you a picture of what this looks like clearly. In 1913, when the Federal Reserve was created, a dollar bought real value. A men's suit cost $15, a house $3,500, a car $500, gold $20 per ounce. Today, that same suit costs $800, the house $400,000, the car $40,000, gold $2,000 per ounce. The dollar lost 97% of its purchasing power in just over a century. Not because products got more valuable, because the dollar became worth less systematically. Every single year, the printing presses run, the money supply expands relentlessly, and every single year, your savings buy less than they did yesterday. This isn't theory, it's mathematical certainty, baked into the system's design. Now let me show you how the wealthy protect themselves differently. Meet Ray Dalio, founder of Bridgewater, the world's largest hedge fund. Dalio has publicly stated that cash is trash in this environment forever. He shifted his portfolio heavily into gold, commodities, inflation-protected bonds, and real assets. Not because he's paranoid, because he understands how central banks operate daily. He knows that when governments face debt crises, they print money always. And when they print money, savers lose, asset holders win, predictably, every time. Dalio didn't wait for permission or certainty. He moved, and his wealth moved with him. Or consider Paul Tudor Jones, legendary trader, billionaire, macro strategist extraordinaire. In 2020, he publicly stated he was buying gold and commodities aggressively. He said inflation was coming, not the 2 to 3% kind, the structural kind that destroys savings. Wall Street analysts called him alarmist, told investors everything was under control. 2 years later, inflation hit 9%, highest in 40 years, exactly as he predicted. Jones protected his wealth because he didn't trust the narrative being sold. He trusted history, monetary policy mechanics, and the incentives of desperate governments. Men like Dalio and Jones don't have special access to secret information. They simply see the system clearly and refuse to be victims of it. Let's go deeper into the mechanics so you understand this fully. The US government currently carries over $34 trillion in national debt officially. That's $340 trillion, a number so large it's almost meaningless to our brains. The interest payments alone are over $1 trillion per year and rising exponentially. That's more than the entire defense budget, more than all social programs combined. There are only 3 ways to deal with debt this massive realistically. Option 1, raise taxes dramatically, politically impossible, would destroy the economy instantly. Option 2, cut spending drastically, also politically impossible, no politician survives that. Option 3, inflate the debt away, print money, devalue the currency silently. Guess which option they choose every single time throughout all of history? They print, they inflate, they transfer wealth from savers to debtors systematically. It's not a conspiracy, it's incentive structure, the path of least political resistance. And you, holding cash in a savings account, are the target. Now let's return to that man in the corner office again. He's not stupid, he's educated, successful, capable of understanding complex systems deeply. So why is he sitting on $400,000 in cash, losing value daily? because he's operating from an identity that no longer serves him anymore. He identifies as a responsible saver, a conservative steward, a patient wealth builder. Those identities made sense in 1960, when money was backed by gold. But in 2024, those identities guarantee slow, silent, invisible financial erosion daily. His father saved money in a bank and retired comfortably decades ago, but his father lived in a different monetary system entirely, one that's gone. The rules changed in 1971, but the cultural programming didn't adjust accordingly. So he follows advice that worked 50 years ago in a system that no longer exists. Here's the identity shift that changes everything for high net worth men. You are not a saver, you are a sovereign wealth protector always. Savers hold cash and hope the system treats them fairly forever. Sovereign wealth protectors understand the system and position themselves accordingly ahead of time. Savers trust institutions to preserve their purchasing power over decades naively. Sovereign wealth protectors trust scarce assets, real value, and strategic positioning always. This isn't about taking wild risks or leveraging yourself into oblivion. It's about seeing inflation for what it truly is, theft by policy, and refusing to be a victim of a system designed against you. So what does a sovereign wealth protector do with $400,000 today? First, he calculates his liquidity needs, what he needs accessible within 6 months. That stays in cash, stable, boring, but necessary for short-term operations. The rest moves into assets that preserve purchasing power over time reliably. Gold has held value for 5,000 years, proven, scarce, universally recognized everywhere. Every civilization that abandoned gold-backed currency eventually collapsed under inflation's weight, historically. Gold isn't an investment, it's insurance against monetary debasement and government recklessness. Real estate in high-demand areas tends to rise with or above inflation consistently. Not speculative properties in declining markets, but productive land and essential housing. Index funds tracking productive businesses capture economic growth over decades steadily. Businesses raise prices with inflation, revenues and profits rise, shareholders benefit accordingly. Commodities, silver, oil, agricultural products, things the world needs regardless of currency value. Hard assets that cannot be printed, diluted, or created by government decree. I'm not telling you what to choose, I'm showing you the framework. The point is simple. Cash is not safety anymore, it's silent loss. Let me show you the numbers so you see this clearly. $400,000 at 0.5% annual return in savings grows to $420,000 in 10 years. Sounds good until you adjust for real inflation at 8% annually. That $420,000 has the purchasing power of $194,000 in today's dollars. You made money, but you lost half your wealth while sleeping comfortably. Now take the same $400,000, allocate it across gold, real estate, and index funds. Assume a conservative 7% average annual return below historical averages for these assets. In 10 years, you have $786,000, adjusted for inflation, worth $364,000 today. You didn't just preserve wealth, you protected and grew it against systemic theft. The difference between these two paths is $170,000 in real purchasing power. That's the cost of believing the inflation lie, the price of inaction. This is not theoretical. This is happening right now to millions of men. Men who worked decades to build wealth, who sacrificed, who played by rules. And the system is quietly, legally, systematically transferring that wealth away daily. Not to criminals, to those who understand how money actually works today. The middle class is being hollowed out, not by accident, by design. Wages rise 3%, while real costs rise 8%. The gap widens every year. Savings accounts pay 0.5%, while inflation runs 8%. Wealth evaporates silently. Those who hold assets get richer, those who hold cash get poorer. This is the greatest wealth transfer in human history, and it's invisible. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most men don't want to hear clearly. Waiting to understand inflation better costs you $80 to $100 per day. That's $30,000 to $40,000 per year lost while you research and deliberate. You're not being cautious, you're actively losing wealth through inaction right now. The men who win understand this. Action is protection, hesitation is loss. Certainty is a luxury that no longer exists in this monetary environment. The only certainty is that cash loses value, predictably, relentlessly, mathematically. So, the question isn't whether to move, it's how fast you move. So let me ask you directly, what identity are you living from? Are you the man who trusts the system to protect your savings, or the man who sees the system for what it is? Are you waiting for certainty before you move your wealth strategically? Or do you understand that certainty never comes? Action creates safety. Every day you sit on cash, losing 8 to 10% purchasing power annually. You're not being conservative, you're being quietly robbed in broad daylight. This is not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor here. I'm showing you what the system won't, how money works now. Your next step is simple. Calculate your real inflation rate today. Track what you actually spend on housing, food, insurance, energy, education monthly. Compare that to last year. See the real increase, not the reported number. Then ask yourself honestly, is my current strategy protecting me against this? If the answer is no, you know what to do next. Luxona exists for men who refuse to play the victim of systems, men who see truth clearly and move accordingly without hesitation or fear. On Patreon, we go deeper, specific frameworks for wealth protection and sovereignty building. How to allocate across asset classes based on your liquidity and risk profile. How to build a sovereign wealth identity that moves faster than inflation. How to think like a protector, not a saver, in a system designed against you. This is not for everyone, only men ready to see clearly and act. If that's you, the link is in the description below, waiting now. And if this framework shifted something in you, hit subscribe right now. Because every week, we reveal truths the system doesn't want you seeing. We build a movement of men who refuse to be silent victims, men who see, understand, and protect what they've built with clarity. That man in the corner office, the one with $400,000 disappearing. He's not stupid, he's just operating from an outdated identity patiently. The moment he sees inflation as theft by policy, everything changes. He stops waiting for safety and starts creating it actively daily. He stops trusting institutions and starts trusting scarce assets and strategy. He becomes a sovereign wealth protector, and his wealth reflects that identity. The system will keep printing, keep inflating, keep transferring wealth away silently. But he's no longer a participant in that transfer, he's protected. And that protection changes everything about how he moves through the world. Welcome to Luxona, where men refuse to play small.